This going.
No, leave meeting.
Shut up.
All right. So thank you again, guys, for being here, and just kind of sharing your journey. I wanted to have this video and do this video for myself, if I'm being completely honest, so I can, just evaluate how our past year or past 13 months has gone. But also, I think you guys have a really tremendous story to share and could be so beneficial for other people that are just struggling, don't know where to go, don't, just kind of on this hamster wheel of financial stress and don't really know how to get off of it and move forward. So thank you for taking time to chat with me today. So let's start. We met like May of 2020. So about 13 months ago. Where were you guys at financially? You don't have to go into, deep numbers, but where were you at financially and emotionally last year?
Upside down and upset.
Yeah. I would say we were obviously living paycheck to paycheck and the old robbing Peter to pay Paul. And everything we did was, oh, well, next month or next week, or we'll figure it out then. Nothing, we always pushed everything off because it was, we'll make it better when we can or as we can.
And did you find that Murphy kept hitting, new things kept coming up every paycheck, every month, something new would happen? And so you had really good intentions of, maybe getting out of the hole and trying to get into a better spot, but stuff kept hitting, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I think looking back on some of it wasn't necessarily, Murphy's Law like we thought it was or felt it was, as it was not budgeting and planning. Your vehicle registration comes every year, but you don't think about it till it's due. And then it was like, oh, we just get ahead and you feel like, yes, we're going to get this figured out. And then something like that is a reoccurring normal thing would come up and you'd feel like, oh, it just took the wind out of your sails because, you had to pay for that, or, something, like I said, like a scheduled regular thing that you don't think about every day. And then it kind of felt like that, like, oh God, no matter what we do, we always keep getting knocked back down.
Right. What were your fears at that time? What were you guys afraid of, either facing or afraid might happen, when we met about this time last year?
I guess my biggest fear is I'm a few years older than Jake. So I was always telling him, I was afraid of what's going to happen when we want to retire. What's going to happen when, our kids are out of school and it's just the two of us again. We're never going to have the money to enjoy life or to save for retirement. And I kept telling him, I don't want him to have to work, every day till he's 100 to make, our life happen. So I guess those are some of my big fears.
Jake, did you have any fears? Or was it just...
I mean, it was kind of there's no money, I got to go make more, and I got to figure out how just to keep the bills paid and the lights on, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't really say I had any big fears. I don't really mess with the finances much. That's more Misty's department, but I had to make sure there was enough money there. So, there was a level of stress that was on me. That was, I guess you could call that my fear, is my stress level, because it was through the roof.
Sure. And so, Misty, you and I kind of talked on the phone. You guys came as a referral. You knew somebody else that was working with me. And so, you called and I think the first or second meeting that we had, Jake, do you remember what you told me? Your fear of working with a coach, do you remember what you told me? I think it was the first or second session. What was the biggest thing that you're like, man, don't tell me to.
No, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I'm sure one of you will refresh my memory.
Yeah, I think he had two fears. One was, how are we going to afford to pay somebody to help us when we're already struggling?
Mm-hmm.
And the other was, I don't want to work with somebody who's going to tell me to sell all my shit.
Yep. I think that was it. Those words stick out in my head so much because that was your biggest thing. Like, don't tell me to sell all my shit. Like, what do we need to do I'm not going to live by a camper. I'm not going to live in a camper by the river, I think is what you told me. Like, don't tell me to sell everything. I'm not living in a camper by the river. So.
Well, I mean, but when you're going into it, it's a tough pill to swallow because you got to look at it as, okay, I need help. You're getting out of debt, but and it sounds goofy at first when you say, I'm going to pay somebody to tell me to stop paying people to do stuff for you. That's how it sounds. And I get how it sounds, and it sounds absolutely crazy, but it's the knowledge behind what you're being told, being coached with, that is, what you need. It's what you need to hear. It's the unpleasant stuff that you got to hear that says, hey, dummy, you got to stop.
Right. And do you find that, you're just so emotionally attached to your finances, right? Like you're in it every single day, that there are blind spots that you just live it every day. And so sometimes we just don't recognize the blind spots that we have, right? And you get so like tunnel vision that sometimes it's nice just to have an outside perspective, say, what about this? Or, here's your options, like you guys actually do have options. It's not just a black or white picture here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those things where obviously we weren't doing it right. Because if we would have, we wouldn't have needed help. I mean, first thing you got to do is you got to admit that you need help. It's just like any 12-step program you're going to touch. I mean, I needed help. She needed help.
Right.
Well, and I think a lot of people think that it's common sense, like, oh, well, if you don't have the money, don't spend it. If you don't, this, or if you know what I mean? Like, we had a budget, but our budget wasn't a strict budget, and our budget wasn't a true budget. It was kind of sugar coated. And so once you actually sit down and we sat down with you and put the real numbers down. Jake always asked me, he'd work and work and work and work overtime and do extra things. And then he'd be mad or frustrated, I guess, when he would come, hey, let's go do this. And I'd be like, we can't, we're broke. We don't have any money, and he'd be like, well, where did it all go? I just worked, 45 days in a row or whatever. And until I actually sat down and gave him the real black and white numbers of where all of our money goes, you don't realize how, oh, well, that iPad only costs us $20 a month, and that phone costs us this, and that, these little extra things that adds up so fast, and all the burn is soda. And well, we ate out at McDonald's 3 times this week, but we ate off the dollar menu, so it wasn't that bad. I mean, those are the stories that, every day, every week that we had, and having people like us where he would justify my mistakes and I would justify his, and we'd make it okay and, keep going that way. Once you got involved, it like, being an objective third party with no emotional attachment, you could put it down and say, well, this is what you're doing. Do you realize that? And that's where you're like, no, like you don't realize you're doing it. And you don't realize all the, like you said, the blind spots where you pay $100 here or $50 there or whatever, and it adds up to be thousands.
Right. Right.
Pretty much what she's trying to say is we needed help and you changed our life.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that we all, I use a coach myself, and I think this goes, it's nothing different than hiring a mechanic, right? Or, going to the doctor, or, having somebody come and fix your roof, right? That your roof is leaking, but you might not know all the steps to replace it, right? Or your car's not running right, but you don't know exactly what it is that needs. So you
Right.
take it to somebody that
Yeah.
specializes more in that area. And I'd like to say that financial coaching is very similar to that. We all can use help, and there's no shame ever in where we find ourselves. I believe that people do the best. We've all done the best that we could, and we've all found ourselves in situations that we didn't like, right? And there's nothing wrong with saying, look, I don't like where I'm at. I really need help to get out of it, and I'm not sure how. So who can I turn to, right?
Yeah.
So what were you guys hoping originally to get from coaching?
Some pointers, tips and techniques, maybe. To be honest, right away, I thought it was all voodoo and witchcraft and it didn't really exist. And I was throwing money at a fan and I didn't know where it was going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but obviously that's not correct.
Oh.
I think one of the first times I talked to you, you asked me, like what made me decide this time, because you get to those points, you get a tax return or you sell something and you get some money and you're like, all right, I'm going to make it right this time. We're going to do better. And then it gets back on the revolving door. And I think that's what I told you is I said, my biggest thing is I want the revolving door of debt or whatever to stop. And I want to be debt free, of course, but like our goal was to be able to have money left over after we paid our bills to save or to put towards something or, whatever, and stop the paycheck to paycheck living. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, my goal originally. And then that really quickly grew.
Right. So where would you guys say that you're at after 13 months? Where would you say you're at now emotionally with your finances?
Oh, like, I don't know. I feel like we still have our bad days, it's just like anything, like, weight loss or anything. You have a good day and you're like, yes, we're doing awesome and this is great and we're never looking back. And then you stumble and you have those days where you're like, oh, here we go. We're back on that train again. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're kind of still up and down, but for the most part, I think we're a million times better than we were. I know the stress in our family has decreased a ton. Mm-hmm. We still have a long way to go for our goals and stuff, which, are constantly changing, but I feel like we're doing emotionally, we're way, way better than we were.
What I've seen a lot with you guys over this past year is that I've seen a level of trust develop, that you're learning to trust your decisions now, and you've learned to trust. I don't think that you didn't trust each other before, but I think that it's changed over this period of time, that I have seen this trust build with you guys. Just knowing that, okay, you know what, we are capable of making decisions that are aligning with our goals, right? And not going to dig us into a hole, but really help us get out of it and help us keep moving forward. And I've really noticed that between you guys this past year, which I think is powerful. Once you build that, I think you're pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah. And I think there were a lot of conversations in the beginning and, that still continue as far as like what our goals are and are we on the same page about how we're going to reach them, which we didn't have those conversations before. Maybe we did, but it was like, oh yeah, I want to save $1,000 or whatever it was. And that was the end of it. Now we actually like have goals, and then we talk about, okay, so how are we going to reach that goal, and how's the best way or the quickest way, or what do we each need to do to get to that goal, versus it just being, well, stop spending money and work more,
Right.
like there's more to it than that.
Right.
And I would say that before we had, it was a pipe dream to be out of debt. Like, no way, that doesn't really happen. You got to be,
Rich,
a lottery winner or something
Yeah.
to be out of debt, or Warren Buffett's brother or something to be out of
Right.
debt. But I mean, that's not how it goes. You got to commit yourself to doing it. So.
Yeah.
And so you guys are, after 13 months, debt free, except for your
Yes.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exciting. I am so damn proud of you guys, honestly. Because you guys had to make a lot of really tough decisions over this past year. It wasn't just, you didn't win a lotto, right? You didn't
No.
have
Right.
you guys paid off and got rid of just over $122,000 worth of debt in 13 months. And that wasn't because you came into some big payoff, right? And you could just pay off
Right.
everything. You guys had to make some really tough decisions this past year. And did I tell you? So I want to just clarify, because sometimes people think, oh, and Jake, you had this fear, like, don't tell me to sell my stuff. So did I tell you to sell things?
No, you didn't. You said, what can we do? And you look at what you have. So we had some material things that were paid off. We had pickup and camper and four-wheelers and stuff that was paid off. You don't make enough money to go use any of that stuff. So what's the point in having any of that stuff, was what we come to terms with. So when you get rid of all that stuff that's sitting there, well, that's money in your pocket. I mean, that's as good as money in a bank account anywhere.
Right.
You sell it, and yeah, I mean, was it hard? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The whole trip has been hard, but
Absolutely.
they're not gonna quit making that stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's always gonna be new stuff coming out. We don't have to have everything.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that a lot of this hasn't been easy. And the journey beforehand wasn't easy either. Right. I mean,
Right.
it is my hope that your journey going forward is easier and less stressful than it's been in the past. And because of those really difficult decisions that you guys made, now I think going forward, you can have those things and you're not working to pay somebody else. Your time and your money really belongs to you, and you
Right.
have choices and you have options now where before you really didn't, right? I mean, you were really working to pay somebody else. And so you didn't have a whole lot of control over your finances.
I wouldn't say we didn't have any control over our finances. Our finances told us what we could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how many different jobs you worked, or how many hours you worked, or how much money you brought home. Your finances said, yeah, you can eat out, or no, you can't even have milk tonight.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever think you were going to be debt free in 13 months?
No.
No, I think the first meeting with you, when we did all the like budget paperwork and like what are your goals and this and that, for some reason I think I remember us saying that we would be debt free minus our mortgage and minus, I can't remember, was it a car payment or something, in 5 years. I think. And I was like we were like, yeah, that's maybe attainable and this and that. And I don't know, I felt like the stuff we were doing, a lot of it, like Jake said, was extremely hard decisions.
Mhm.
You feel like when you buy something and whether you finance it and you paid it off or you just bought it outright and it's yours, it's not owned by the bank or anybody else, you worked for that. And to, you know, be okay with us saying, okay, yeah, we worked for that and we own that and that's ours, and then turn around and sell it because we had medical bills coming out of our ears, we had student loans coming out of our ears, the stuff that, like I think you mentioned one time, those are things that can't be sold. Those are just debts that have to be paid.
Right.
Well, if you have things that can pay those debts and get rid of them, then you're silly to sit on the things that can be rebought at a different
Mhm.
time, when you can afford them. Because even if you don't have a payment on them, if you have other debt, you're still paying on a debt that you can't afford. And I know, like, you're a Ramsey preferred coach, and I know, a lot of people, we've talked about that, how people are like, oh, you can't pay your debt off that fast and that much if you don't make a huge amount of money in a year. And if you don't, like you said, come into a lump sum. And I can 100% say that is 100% not true, because he worked his butt off making every dollar he could. And I worked my butt off on making our budget as tight and sticking to our budget as best that we could, to make every penny count and have a spot for every penny.
Right.
And it wasn't easy. You want to talk about marital spats? That's where you're going to find it. But
Right.
you look back at the past 13 months, and
it's worth it. It's a short time.
Totally worth it.
Mm.
We can argue about little stuff because it's better this way.
Yeah.
The stress is gone.
Right.
You don't have to work 140 hours a week to get by.
Right. Yeah. And I think
the tools, the tools you gave us through the process are going to be with us for the rest of our lives and help us, plan for those future things, and hopefully never get back into that revolving, door that we were in, or revolving wheel that we were in, because we know how to avoid it,
Right.
And like I said before, a lot of it, people would say, well, that's common sense. And it is, a lot of it is, but until it slaps you right in the face, I think people don't want to admit it, or like you said, just are afraid to ask for the help. I asked you a lot of dumb questions, I think, about how the process of paying things out, like, how do you pay that off when you don't? And it was like, even if it's $50, it's $50 that is going towards that to pay it off, like,
right.
Every penny counts.
Well, and I think it's important to mention that I don't think anything is dumb, because if we don't question what we're doing, because we've been doing things one way and it hasn't necessarily served us the way we wanted it to. So let's question it. Let's ask questions. Let's kind of turn everything upside down and say, okay, where do we need to focus? What are some choices that we've made in the past that we did not like? What did not serve us well? So let's look, were those behaviors, was it, something that we were doing? Was it life hit us? Like, we're really good people, and sometimes life just hits and you're just left with, man, what next? Right.
Right.
And that happens to a lot of us. I mean, I have been there. I know you just get knocked down, and sometimes you just hit this, like, man, I can't handle anything now, what more could possibly come my way? And I'd like to, say one of my most favored quotes ever is, short-term sacrifices for long-term goals. And I think you guys are the epitome of that. You sacrificed and you worked your asses off this past 13 months and made incredibly difficult decisions. But for that short term, 13 months, I think it went by really fast. I don't know about you guys, but this last year has gone by, no, longest year of your life.
Sometimes it did. Sometimes it did.
Every time I got a paycheck, it felt like it raced by, but other than that.
Right. Well, I hope the next year goes by maybe less stressful, and you can look back at this time and say, man, you know, we sacrificed a lot, but we've really put ourselves in a really excellent position going forward. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be, you know, that there aren't challenges that you guys are going to have to face, and, you know, some difficult decisions, and doesn't mean it's going to be smooth sailing. But I do believe that you guys have made these changes that are going to carry you through forever. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your process. I learn a lot from you guys, and I truly value that. I value our relationship. I've gotten to know you guys on a more personal level. I think you guys are great. So thank you for trusting me to be, and allowing me to be a part of your process and your journey. It is definitely something I will never forget.
For sure. I think it's reciprocated.
Yeah.
We thank you and appreciate you more than you'll ever know, because
Oh.
we were not in a good place, and now I feel like we're doing pretty awesome. So
I think you guys are, and you know, it was because of your decisions, right? I mean, I think I was there to help guide and to just bring out some of the options, but ultimately it was really you guys that made all of this happen, and you had it all within you. It was just, you needed a little bit of help to bring it forward, you know, to bring it out, to uncover some of that. And so any fears, any questions, anything going forward that you're thinking, man, I'm not quite sure if we can do this, or
I don't think so. Not yet anyway. Probably next week.
right. Awesome.
No, I don't. For me anyway, I don't think so. I think like I said, you've helped us figure some stuff out that we probably wouldn't have known or acknowledged in the past, and hopefully we'll take it forward and keep growing.
For sure.
Yeah. Pretty much what she said. Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, you can say it however you want, but I mean, poor people have poor ways. That's what I can say about it. And we played that game, and I'm sure we made some banker family rich, but we don't have to worry about that now.
Right. Now you guys are really building your own wealth, you know, and now, I mean, you guys have 4 young kids, so you're you just have more options. You're able to help them grow, you know, if they should choose to go to college or whatever their future holds. You have an opportunity to really pass down this legacy and leave a legacy for them. And even though they're young, they will still follow your journey. You guys have a really great opportunity to teach them and to guide them, and to leave an incredible legacy for them going forward. And I think, you know, we've talked about this. We always take, you know, we do what we know. You know, a lot of our behaviors and a lot of stuff that we learned from our parents. And it doesn't mean it was bad. It just means that they did the best they could too, right? And so now your kids will be able to learn all of this from you guys, and you know, what you're passing along to them and the next generation is pretty darn incredible as well. So
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Looks like we kind of keep freezing here. The joys of technology, but
Right.
thank you guys again so much for again everything. I'm so proud of you, and thank you for sharing your journey with everybody. You know, I'm sure you're a huge inspiration to a lot of other people, and they're going to benefit from hearing your story. So thank you for doing this as well.
You're welcome. Thank
you.
you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a fabulous week. Have a fabulous 4th of July. We will not lose touch.
No,
Nope.
no, we won't.
All righty.
You too. Stay safe.
Oh, we will. We will. All right, guys. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.